Good morning, everybody. Long time no see. Lots of real life getting in the way of, well, not really kind of drawing, but more in sharing it with y'all. But there should be back to regular Monday and Friday videos with this one. I think I'm going to put this one up on Monday. We'll go ahead and get it scheduled for then. So happy Monday, everybody. As you can see, about finished off with the Crom the Barbarian pinup. Let me zoom it out a little bit for you. Maybe if I could actually do a little pinch zoom here. Get a little bit of a better view of it. There you go. But I spent a significant amount of time evening out that background. And now I need to fill in the rest of Goliath's hair. Zoom back in properly to where I was. And, you know, adjust some darks here and there on the figures just to make sure, kind of set a baseline with the background here, and just want to make sure that this kind of matches. So I like how this kind of disappears into it. It's very much like the painting. So we kind of want to get that happening with the beard and with the hair, but still leaving a few minor, very subtle highlights to, you know, I'm kind of hoping the direction of the pen line will kind of, like if you come in to look like a detail, will kind of, you know, show the hair, which I think it does. But, you know, without further ado, let's finish this thing off today, man. I'm not tired of it, but there are moments when you're drawing line after line after line where it just feels like it's never ending. So it's good to see a little light at the end of the tunnel and seeing all the, you know, seemingly insignificant, you know, mundane, repetitive line drawing, you know, drawing of lines, kind of coming together, you know, to form something greater than. Or is it greater than? I don't know. I'll let that for you decide. If it is the insignificant little lines working together, and I don't know, there's just something really cool with that synergy. And I think when you sit down and spend, you know, more time than what most people would think is sane or normal doing something. I even had a buddy of mine, had a problem with the background being very uneven, and my solution was to, well, I'll just work both sides of the composition and move it from bottom right corner to top left corner and try to maintain, you know, some direction of line. I didn't use a ruler or anything, so there's some changes in direction where I've had to correct course and stuff. But again, it's one of those things where you don't really notice it from far away. It does have the effect of darkening the background. But if you get up close, you can kind of see all those, like, I don't want to call them mistakes or anything, because, you know, ultimately I left them in and tried to make them work with what I had and what I was trying to do. And I kind of like when you can kind of see a little bit of a part of the process where the artist has to kind of contest with how you put yourself in a little bit of a corner. And then as you get better, you start to figure out, like, how to avoid doing that to yourself as much as possible. So you creep up on it more, but it still happens. It's not something that I'm sure most people who draw or paint will probably tell you that, like, oh yeah, there's this mistake, there's that mistake. But, you know, you make it work. You make it work within the composition. You don't, it's a problem to be solved. It's not crumple it up and throw it away, you know? And again, it's a good microcosm for life, you know, where the only thing at stake is the success of the drawing. And in the case of this drawing, there's a deadline. Not that there's any pressure on me, because I've tried to work on this a little bit every day so that it doesn't become overwhelming, tackling little bits here and there, as you've seen in some of my previous videos. And I think this might be the last one here. But we got our reference pulled up on the computer, going back to the Guido Cognacci painting, just to make sure we get, you know, I'm not working the background anymore. I'm just working the the figures and the subjects. So we need the reference for that lighting at least. Make some of these go darker. Yeah, this is pretty much it. It's just drawing line after line to kind of get the value that we need, you know? And with that, yeah, I might have to change pens. I've really ruined this tip here. But yeah, it's been a heck of a week. We had some electrical work getting done in the house last week, and consequently the power was off for a little bit longer than we expected. But you know, that's kind of how the way it goes when you are trying to go between the city and the electrical company and the inspectors and all that fun stuff to kind of get your family back in the house and get life back to normal until the next project, at least. You know, I have a feeling we got another big project coming up, but I'm hoping it won't require us to move out of the house for a little bit. I'd like to be able to at least maintain some semblance of normalcy while some of these things that have to get done. Otherwise, you know, what are you gonna do? I don't want the house to fall down or let it go on for too long and have the damage be more significant than if we just tackled it when I noticed it, and you know, but I won't go into that. That's boring. We're here to draw. We're here to think about David and Goliath and Baroque Italian paintings and barbarian comics and you know, whatever else comes to mind. But it is nice to be back in the kitchen again with my cup of coffee. Nose a little bit less sniffly, but as soon as I get over that cold, you know, all the pollen comes out and everything's yellow again. So I, you know, it never ends in the spring. I can't wait for the fall again. Yeah, there's really not much to Goliath's hair. In the painting, I'll put an example of the part of the painting I'm working on here in the I'll just interlay it in the video here. But yeah, it's pretty dark. It kind of just blends in with the background even when you zoom in. So I think I'm just going to try to go as dark as possible. You know, at least not dark, well, yeah, just to kind of match the background, with the only difference being the direction of line. So that way from far away it kind of blends in, but when you get up close you kind of get to see, you know, how David, or in this case Crom, is holding the hair in his hand. And then as the hair gets closer to the scalp here, or the forehead, I guess, you know, it kind of breaks off into its own kind of strand. So we're going to try to approximate that. But yeah, this has been a really fun project to work on, and I'm really, I'm really grateful for the Instagram comics community, and like, you know, Kurt really putting forth an effort to try to do something and include as many people as possible so that we get our work in print and, you know, get some product to sell. I really admire that in him, and what a good opportunity to and it's fun too. And again, it's no pressure. It's fun. The deadline was when it was first kind of proposed to me was far off enough to where I was like, well, I work something here and there, but then it kind of quickly became this real tedious thing. But again, the deadline was far off enough, excuse me, misspeaking here, to where it's like, okay, well, I could still do that, but it became a little bit of a challenge. But again, if you strategize and you do a little bit every day, tackle it in pieces, which was kind of what brought on having to redo the background to get it nice and even, because in doing it in pieces, I got 2 pieces of blue line art book paper here taped together. And then I drew the drawing, and I liked it too much to erase it, and it ended up going across too. So it is what it is. But when I was working it and kind of breaking it up, I'd work, all right, well, this, I get the figure done, I'll get the background in, but then the background ended up being very uneven. So ultimately the solution was, and it's always the solution, you kind of always have to work the entirety of the composition to get any sort of like unity, in the piece. But I think it's also helpful in big pieces like this, and especially if you have like any sort of deadline, to kind of break it up into smaller bits. And in this case, it wasn't so bad. It wasn't anything I couldn't fix, but it was just one of those things where I knew at some point I was going to have to bite the bullet and just spend a day just drawing line after line after line to get this background just nice and even. And I did that yesterday. I was talking to my buddy. I was like, yeah, I don't know if I'm going to go back the other way. It just seems so tedious. And, as soon as I get home and I'm by myself yesterday, I'm like, oh, I have to do it. I couldn't resist doing it. And honestly, I'm glad I did, because the drawing is much better off for it. Yeah, let's get a different pen for this part. Let's see. Oh, that's a 1-0. That's not what we want. We want a 0-1. All right, tip's no good. I should probably separate these out by ones I've smashed the tips on just by drawing. Look at how many I've gone through so far. Let me get rid of the 1-0 on here, because that was in there by accident. Look at that. There's 3 I've pretty much gone through. Let me try this one on a piece of paper, see how it does. That should be okay. Got a little bit of a smash tip, and you can see I've been using it just because that's been rubbed off, so it's definitely one that's been used. But we need to kind of creep up on the value on this face here, because there are some subtle values in Goliath's head now that we have his hair kind of matching the background there and disappearing. I might have to actually go in there and, yeah, this is the one I was using. This one's still good, but like it doesn't have the it's not as sharp as a micron is, mostly because I used this one yesterday to draw those lines in the background. So it used a lot of ink, and then I was also pushing down pretty hard. I was trying not to, but it just got to a point where, you smash the tip enough and it kind of only works at a certain angle. And so this pen has been used and abused, but it has done some good work. And for that, I will just keep it around for that background area just for consistency. And if I get it at the right angle, it is dark enough. And we want to get like some value going here. So this does kind of recede. Not to complete black, but black enough. Kind of fill in some of these wider spaces, because this is definitely not completely white. So yeah, basically what's so important about making this background so even is, number one, the painting that I'm working off of utilizes very, very stark contrast between lights and darks. It's a technique called chiaroscuro. I'm going to keep saying what things are in hopes that I'm kind of wrong, so it attracts people in the comments to come and correct me, but that's my understanding of it. It's you know, it's chiaroscuro. It's extreme contrast between lights and darks. But one of the things that I'm finding in drawing this painting is that there are a lot of subtlety in between there. So again, like similar to you know, looking at the details and the change of direction in my line and stuff like that, and it looks one way from far away and it looks another way from close up. This is a painting that does that too, to my surprise. Well, I guess not to my surprise, but you know, when you actually take the time to really look at something like that, and I think with paintings, one of the best ways you can do that is to try to recreate it yourself, whether you do a painting study or a drawing study. You can learn a lot about how, you know, something was achieved and the different effects it might have on the viewer, depending on how much time you want to spend with it and how close you want to get with it. And this is one such that, well, there are a lot of dramatic changes between lights and darks. There are a ton of very, very subtle shifts between value, especially when you get up close on a lot of these areas here. So I want to try to capture that without overworking it, which is kind of difficult. I might have missed the mark a little bit on Goliath's head, but I don't think it's so overworked that it can't be rescued, you know? So that's the idea, is just kind of refining this to kind of maybe capture some of those subtleties in the value that I see in this painting. Because I think it'll make it a more interesting drawing. I think it's good for me. I feel like I've learned a lot in drawing this pinup here. It was great to kind of follow the synchronous nature of how I arrived at the composition, and trying to figure out what to change and how to change it, so that way it could kind of still pay tribute, I guess, to the original painting, but kind of be its own thing too. And I think I kind of did it. I'm very happy with this drawing. It's definitely the biggest micron drawing I've ever done. Using only 0.1 microns, I might add. I didn't use any different size microns except for 0.1. So it's just a nice slow build of darks and lights, and again, trying to capture some of the subtlety of this painting with that. And that has been very difficult to do, but like I said, I think I'm losing it a little bit here, but I think if I can kind of balance that out, it'll save it. And then, you know, get this emailed to Kurt this weekend. I'll be on his podcast again. We'll be recording another one on Saturday, so that'll be fun to look forward to. I always love talking to Kurt. I love his enthusiasm. Although I feel like every time I go on his podcast, I don't know if it's overexcitement or just a selfish flaw in my personality. It's like I just find I yell because I'm excited or something, and sometimes I'm talking over him, and I don't know. I've never done podcasts before, so it's I guess that's kind of the nature of it. So I'm getting better at it, though, I think. It's just like relating to people. I'm not great at that either, but you know, we try our best. We're getting better at it. I often have to try to remind myself to just shut my mouth for a little bit, which I have not done for a second in this video. But hey, you know what? We didn't rebrand to Drawing in Quiet Time. We tried it, and I didn't like it. Seemed like too much. So we're just going back to Drawin and Jawin, and sometimes I'll be quiet, sometimes I won't, sometimes I'll be Jawin. Yeah, this is good. All right, now let's go back down to this beard with our background pen, because this is definitely going to have to blend in like the hair. But it also, as it goes up, you can see some lights in it. So we want to just kind of slowly follow the contours I've kind of created with the existing line so that it doesn't get too messy, you know? Especially as you go up the beard. We can even put some extra ones in here too to kind of make it look a little bit more patchy as it grows up the cheek. Yeah, this head was kind of hard to draw. It's at a strange angle, and I don't think I got it right, but what I do like that I accidentally did is kind of made the jaw a little bit more slack than what's in the painting, which I think kind of adds to the effect of lifelessness in the head, which is, I mean, that's what you want. I mean, I don't want to get gratuitous here, but you know, it is supposed to be not attached to a body. But hey, you know what? These are things that are essentially out there in the public and considered great works of art, and regardless of the subject matter. So I'm not, you know, it's not like I'm thinking about cutting people's heads off or whatever, just in the context of David and Goliath and what happens in that story and how that relates to Crom the Barbarian. And, you know, we're just going for kind of thematic kind of things here. Like what's you know, you draw your Venn diagram of David and Goliath, and in the other circle you got sword and sorcery, or if you want to get more specific in this case, Crom the Barbarian. And then you start listing the similarities, and I think there's enough there that like, again, I was talking to Kurt on one of the podcasts I did with him recently, and he had asked me, like, you know, what do you imagine, like, do you imagine like a story behind this painting? And for me, it was more just like, again, that Venn diagram of, well, what if you took a character like Crom the Barbarian, or, you know, just like that kind of barbarian archetype, and replaced David with that. Because, you know, the thing about the David story is that he's supposed to be meek, he's supposed to be mild, he's a shepherd boy, and all the, you know, gosh, it's been so long since I've brushed up on my Bible stories here, but I should probably do that again. But, you know, the army couldn't defeat the invading Philistines or whatever it was. I'm probably wrong on that. And they especially could not defeat their champion Goliath, who was, I think in the Bible says he's like, you know, it equates to like 9 feet tall. So he's not like a huge giant, but like he's bigger than the average. And nobody can do it, and David says he can do it. And so they try to outfit him with armor and a sword and stuff, and it, you know, it doesn't fit. It's not his style. You know, that's not, they were trying to give him the traditional way of fighting, but that wasn't for David. He's, you know, he was a shepherd. But, you know, with being a meek and mild shepherd, you know, it's not all just hanging out with the sheep all day. Like, he would have to protect his flock from various predators like lions, bears, you know, so there's one of the things that's great about the story of David is there's that juxtaposition, that high and low, you know, of somebody you would never expect accomplishing something like that. And then, you know, it even further ties it into what happens later in David's life when he becomes king and all that stuff. So it's like David's story is very much about, I don't know, there's like a destiny to it, and then there's also the supernatural element that, like, you know, God kind of favored him and stuff. I don't mean to be giving anybody Bible lessons here, so I'm sorry if I'll finish this up quick. I know that's not stuff for anybody. And I'm definitely not coming at it from a perspective of, you know, you should read your Bible, you know, from a Christian perspective. It's just look at it like a parable, or like Homer's The Odyssey, or something like that, where it's like, what are the forces in this story that make it interesting, that make it endure for so long? And I think that's where, you know, whatever lessons, or similar to a Grimm's fairy tale or something, whatever you can derive from it kind of comes, it's more powerful if you don't take it literally, you know? If you kind of think about it and think about these themes in relation to, you know, yourself, or whatever it is you think about them through, but don't think about them like, oh, this literally happened and I need to literally do you know, you don't want to do that. But anyway, we'll stop talking about the Bible. There we go. Now we can try to adjust some of these things over here. Probably just go a little bit darker. Some of these areas back here. That way we just get a little bit more contrast. And again, we want it to kind of work with what we've established in the background here. Make sure I'm getting that in camera. Let's see if we can scooch back a little bit. Now we're working more on the tunic here. But yeah, I mean, we're in the fine-tuning stages of it now. I think I gotta hide my name in here somewhere too. I didn't think about that. We'll find a spot. I won't show you where it is because I need that to be for me, so I'll do that off camera, but I will put like a nameplate down. I'll try to do a comic book style nameplate down there. You know, you put the box and it looks like a scroll and then it says like McFarlane or whatever. It's not going to say McFarlane because I'm not Todd McFarlane. It's going to probably say like Scoon, because I think you want to get something that's kind of a little bit more abbreviated, especially because my last name's Schoonover. It's like, I don't want to write that. It's so long. So Scoon seems to be, yeah, that's endured through my childhood and stuff like that. It's a good abbreviation, I think. And it's a little zippy, a little zippier sounding than Schoonover. That's more of a mouthful. Scoon, you know? Anyway, you can tell I'm excited about finishing this thing up, man. It's been a long time coming. I feel really good about how it's turned out. I can't wait to see it in print. Can't wait to talk to Kurt about it on Saturday. And oh gosh, it's just been a lot of fun. Even if there were some trials and real life trials and tribulations, it's still to see the final product kind of come out more or less like how I was envisioning it. Especially, I mean, again, especially the sword. I was so worried about this area, and I couldn't be happier with how it turned out. I don't know. I mean, I don't like to sit here and brag about things that I do or whatever, but I spent a long time on this, and I feel like I could say a few nice things about my own drawing. It was a job well done. I'm proud of it. I'm happy. I'm ready to let people see it and tear it apart. I feel good enough about it to where if you see things you don't like about it, you know, it's something I could put under my hat for next time. You know, it's all constructive criticism. Or it can be. Sometimes it's not, but I always try to give people the benefit of the doubt, you know, and just be like, well, what are they seeing that's making them say this, you know, and maybe I can identify that. Because I don't think, I don't know. I don't know what I think. I don't think people are as vindictive or as, they're not as big of haters as you'd think, you know? Let's see, do we gotta scooch some more? Yeah, I think the next area we gotta kind of get is like right here. So let's scooch this up and see how dark it gets. So I definitely have this kind of like more or less defining where the torso starts just based on how dark this gets. So we'll just kind of or the rib cage, I mean. The back and the rib cage. So we'll just kind of slowly hatch until we're happy with that shape there. And this goes pretty dark up here too, so we can hatch up here as well. But it's, again, it's very subtle, the shift from like almost pitch black to, you know, something that's like, oh wait, there's little subtle bits of rib behind here that you can see, or, you know, but it's one of those things you wouldn't really notice, I think, unless you sit here and zoom in on the painting, or I mean, go see it in person and look at it for a while. I think these are things, you know, it's very nice to kind of sit down and look at these things for a little bit and figure out all the subtleties with it, and I don't know, makes me appreciate it more. Yeah, let's come over here and do a we can extend some of these up here. Again, just we want to just create a little tiny bit of value. Always following the movement and direction. So that way, again, you don't want it to be too distracting. We just want it to be nice and subtle. And then I think we can get some of these to come down here to kind of meet it. And that should help. Yeah, this hand has been a very big trouble area for me. If there's one thing I'm not 100% satisfied with in the painting, it's this right here. But I think if I overwork it, it's just going to make it worse. So I might just leave it how it is. Most people haven't said anything to me about it. My one buddy who's got a really good eye for stuff like this, you know, he did point that out. And I was like, yeah, I already redid it once. I don't want to overwork it, you know. We don't want to do too much over here. Maybe just extend a little bit of this up. Just so you get a little bit more transition from this really dark elbow here, because that does recede in the background like that. And then the other thing I need to look at is the hand here, because this looks like it recedes a little in the background too. So we're going to take a look at that real quick and see if we can kind of make this recede a little bit more. But again, it's not like super dark. It's more just like kind of a mid-ground. And then this kind of gets a little bit lighter from here. And then this never goes too dark here. This actually stays pretty light, but there's a little bit of value that kind of creeps down the forearm there. Man, this one's not good either. All right, I guess I gotta go buy some more 01 pens. Oh, this one looks good. Oh, yeah, that's much better. Yeah, it's the other thing. You know, make sure you're using something with a good tip here, because you can definitely see the inconsistency in line if you're not changing pens every so often. That looks a little bit better. Okay. And then let's take a look at this face up here. See if there's areas we can go any darker on as well. Not really. I think I got the value pretty good on here. Just maybe in some of this hair we can go darker, but we don't want to go too dark because Crom is also supposed to have like blonde hair. So we don't want to go too dark, although maybe some of this back here should recede a little bit. That does stand out a little bit more than I would like. It would help to not make this look so flat, at least. But again, we don't want it to go too dark. I think we just want this to be a little bit more of a mid-ground, maybe a little darker by the scalp there. Yeah, that looks better. Even just that minor adjustment, you know, that's kind of what we're doing. We're going around the drawing, adjusting some things. The tunic looks pretty good. Doesn't go too dark up here. It's more of a mid-ground. Again, that's nice and dark there. Yeah, I think that's all I got for y'all today. So let's zoom it out, take a final look at Crom the Barbarian. We've done it. We did it. This will be going in a book that Kurt is collecting. I would really encourage you all to follow his channel. I'll link it in the bio, or not the bio. I'll link it in the description. I'm sorry, social media brain. But yeah, give it Kurt Variant Inker, Turbo Pit Fighter. Him and Jake Jacobs are doing some really great indie comics stuff and really trying to foster a community. So if you like drawing, if you like comics, if you like drawing comics, give them a follow. Interact with their channel. Interact with their Instagrams as well. But Kurt's putting this together. It should be in a book out this summer, and I'll have some for sale when I get them. And I hope that you guys would be interested in purchasing one, because the comics are legitimately very fun to read. And Kurt's original stories that he drew and wrote for it, also wonderful. Incredible work. But yeah, thanks for stopping by. Thanks for doing this with me. And we'll be back again for more on Friday. Bye.